Hello everyone, I'm Toluca from Markers and Minions, and this is episode 13 of Plan With Me. So I took a few weeks off of the planning episodes, and now I'm ready to start planning Unit 8. I will be starting Unit 8 I kind of already introduced it last week. I'm going to do a little bit more of it next week, but we also start testing next week, so we're going to be easing our way into it. This is the last unit that I'll be able to go all out with. It's a really fun unit. It's one of the science units. It connects very well to our NGSS standards, and it's a mix of nonfiction and fiction in the reading selections, but overall it's pretty much an informational unit. So it's all about weather of some sort, weather or natural hazards, natural disasters, erosions, landforms. So it's your earth science connection. So we'll be diving into that in just a little bit for this video. Before we start, I want to welcome all our new members to the group. Take a look at the pinned post at the top of this group page and just read through the rules, and also explore the photos, files, and videos tab. You'll find a lot of interesting resources there. And also, if you're looking for a specific topic or a specific area in which you need help, check out the search bar within our group. You can search any keyword, and then all of the past discussions will come up around that area. So some real common ones are like assessment or small groups, or like the technology aspect, or ways to introduce units. There are a lot of good ideas shared if you search through that search bar. There are several ways you can connect with me outside of this group, and I am on Facebook as a generic Markers and Minions page. So you can find me on there as well and message me through that if you ever need any support or have any questions. I have a website, markersandminions.com. I'm on YouTube, Pinterest, and Instagram, and you can find me by searching Markers and Minions or Toluca Rivers, and I should pop up. So I'm available lots of ways to connect. I also have a TPT shop, Markers and Minions, and what's new on there this week is my project-based learning assignment that goes well with Unit 8. So I've printed it all out so I can show you all what it looks like when we get there, like when we're done planning. This was a few weeks ago, but I've also updated all the spelling and grammar pamphlets. So these skills go along with each week of your units. It's got word sorts, vocabulary, grammar, another grammar page, and then a sentence writing page. So this is good for small groups. So that has been updated. If you already have these, you can save your original file on your desktop, and then all you have to do is click download again, and you'll get these ones. So you'll have like 2 versions. So that's on there, and that's what's new. All right. Hi, Jill. How are you? Leanne, where do I send my payment for the Burbank training? Good question. Brittany handles all of that stuff. You can contact her. I'll write her email address in the comments. So she's handling all of like the registration and the payment and the wait list and all of that. She's referring to the workshops that we have planned, the planning workshops. I've got one in Burbank in a couple of weeks, and then 2 in Sacramento at the end of April, and then again in May. So right now those are all sold out, but we do have a wait list. So, wait, can you close that? No, because the smoke's gonna come in. Thank you. My husband's out on the back porch, and he's usually not here. He's like, I want to hear your video, but he's smoking a cigar, so I don't want the cigar smoke in here. Anyway, that's what she's referring to. Yeah, so you can find that also on the highlighted posts in this group page. group, in this group page, you'll see like a link to go and register for the wait list if you're interested in coming out and planning. Okay. I also have an update for my planner. If you guys haven't already seen, production for my teacher planner started on Monday. They started printing, and the printer's working really hard to get me my first 150 copies sent to me at ASAP. I said before the planning day in the Burbank date. I want to be able to have that there so that teachers can already get it. So that should be there pretty soon. It's really quick to print it, and they've already started. So it looks really cool. I'm excited. And that'll be available at the workshops, and then also online on markersandminions.com. But you have to pay shipping if you buy it online, which is the only hard part. And I've been going around to like FedEx and UPS to see like what their rates are and what would be the quickest, safest, most reliable, but also cost-effective way to ship out these planners. I'm going to be doing it myself, like from this table. So wish me luck. Currently working on figuring that out. If you have any advice for me, if you're familiar with any sort of like shipping, mass shipping like that, let me know. Okay, let's see. So I have these planning templates available on my TPT shop. They're available for free to download. These are also printed inside the teacher planners that are getting made. Hi, Carla. And so these are available for grades 2 through 6 and K1. So K1, your curriculum looks different. So there's a separate one that I made for you all. It's all under one file on my TPT shop. And then you have a unit overview. It's what I like to fill out before every unit. And then weekly breakdown. So there's week 1, and then week 2 and week 3 look the same. And so it's just blank. It's just that third page, and then I print it twice. Nina, try the post office and tell them it's media mail. What's media mail? Okay, that's a good idea. USPS has flat rate boxes. Okay. I went to FedEx, because that's where my husband does most of his shipping from, and they had these boxes that were small enough to hold the planners, and they said the most it would cost, like within California, the most it would cost is like $10 to $15. And I was like, that's still kind of a lot, so I'm still gonna look around. But it's better than like what I've seen sometimes when you're checking out and it's like ground mail is $30. I'm like, yeah, no, we're not gonna do that. Let's see, media mail is for books, but your planner is a book. Okay, let me write this down. That's a good suggestion. So Tina, hi Tina. USPS, there's the flat rate box. And then post office also media mail. The only thing with the post office is my husband says that sometimes it gets lost with them. Like that FedEx would be safer. We'll see. Okay, so this is what you need to start planning. This might be helpful. And then your TRS. So I have my pages bookmarked. A lot of you that have planned with me in the past know that I prefer the online view, but didn't remember to print those. So this works just as well. Week 1, week 2, and week 3. So I have that ready. All right, so Unit 8. Thank you, Tina. Awesome. Unit 8, our essential question for 3rd grade. And now I plan 3rd grade because I teach 3rd, but pretty much any grade level can benefit from these videos because I'll show you how to navigate and find different things in the TRS and just suggestions for saving time and combining lessons and whatnot. But I teach 3rd, so our essential question is how can we predict the unknown? And as always, I'll take pictures of these planning templates afterwards, and I'll upload them to the Unit 8 album. We have a Unit 8 photo album where I've already dumped a whole bunch of pictures from my classroom last year. It was open house for us last year when we did Unit 8, so we did art, we did a technology connection, kids like filmed themselves as meteorologists. We did a whole huge unit, so there's a lot of fun ideas in there. Okay, so for week 1, got my essential question. For week 1, our close reading skills are going to be found under the 2 short reads right here. Read and respond to a poem. Let's say respond to a poem. And the poem for 3rd grade Unit 8 is called Fairweather Clouds. It's a really neat poem. There's a lot of imagery and metaphors, non-literal language. So we haven't taught non-literal language since I think Unit 2 or maybe Unit 4. So it's spiraling back around now. There's also a lesson on text features, specifically footnotes at the bottom of the poem. And then there's a lesson on metaphors. Key details and main idea for that second read. The second short read is a nonfiction selection. It's a passage on climate, weather versus climate, basically. So that introduction on what the difference is and some of the tools that are used to measure weather. So it's going to be a key detail and main idea versus key events and summarizing. There is a vocabulary lesson. There's not always a vocabulary lesson. I like to weave it in every week anyway, kind of informally. I'll have the kids pick out their vocabulary for the week just by annotating, and we'll use context clues. That's our go-to strategy. So for this week, lesson 10, it is context clues for domain-specific vocabulary. There's going to be a lot of domain-specific vocab in these selections. And then the last one is genre features, so descriptive text. So going over the features of what a descriptive text might have. Features. I'm just going to write genre features. Okay, that's a lot for week 1. Ran out of space. Now week 2. And I like to go across this way. So week 2 close reading skills are found under the extended read. So weeks 2 and 3 have the extended read. It's not just short reads. Week 1 is always those short reads. And then down in K and 1, you guys have like mentor reads. So it changes once you get to weeks 2 and 3. For us in upper elementary, we just have one longer selection. So our close reading skills are going to be key events and summarizing. And genre features again, this time it's going to be realistic fiction. There's lesson 8, which is analyze text features. Let's see how that's different from footnotes. This is going to be, actually it looks like footnotes again. So more footnotes. Let me look at the passage. Yeah. Oh, this is going to be a fun selection. Water sky. Okay, so text features again. It's a cute story. Footnotes. And then the last close reading lesson is going to be identify and analyze elements of poetry and descriptive text. So basically taking those 2 lessons from week 1, respond to a poem, and then genre features of descriptive text is probably going to be revisiting that. Identify / analyze elements of poetry and descriptive text. One, 2, 3. So 4 close reading lessons for week 2. I'm excited to have poetry back in Unit 8. We haven't done poems for a while. Okay, now moving on to week 3 close reading skills. Our extended read is the Tropical Rain Belt. So it looks heavily informational. Let's see. Cool. The kids are going to love this with these awesome pictures, graphic features. Look at that. This is going to have a lot of difficult words, though. ITCZ. We're going to learn a lot. Intertropical Convergence Zone. So the first lessons are going to be key details and main idea. Then we've got graphic features, analyze sidebars. What's a sidebar? Is this a sidebar? This just looks like a chart. Maybe this is a sidebar. It looks different from the text. Anyway, graphic features. Then we've got analyze connections within a descriptive text. Analyze connections. That's a standard that we don't hit very often. We have to do that one. Let me see what standard that is. Common Core. Here we go. I think it's this one. It's like 3 point. 3.3. I think it's going to be a 3.3. Describe the relationship between a series of historical events, scientific ideas, or concepts, steps, or language, sequence, cause, effect. It might be that. That's only for informational. Okay, that's lesson 8. So connections within a descriptive text. And then the last one, draw inferences, which we've done a lot in Unit 7. The kids are getting more comfortable with that for me in my class after this past unit. Okay. So you can see the amount of close reading lessons gets smaller with each week. So sometimes I like to move things over if I don't have time to get to them. This week it might be a little bit, or this unit might be a little bit harder because we've got week 2 is just fiction. It's that excerpt from that story, and then week 3 is nonfiction. So, and then this is a poem. So totally different types of text. so it might be a little more difficult to move things around. But for the most part, these are all skills that have spiraled. So there's that, everyone likes to say once you get to Unit 7, you've covered your standards. So I think that's the case. Hi, Camacho, how are you? Okay, and now I'm going to go back to week 1 and fill out these little things down here. So these other skills, we've got the phonics skill, the grammar or language, the writing type. Oh, and we'll talk about writing for Unit 8. It's totally different. And then the vocabulary focus. So spelling is going to be under word study on your TRS down here. And this is the word study text that goes with it. So this text, the small text that comes after your short reads, has a ton of words that follow the spelling skill, which is going to be hard and soft C. So that's always fun and really easy for the kids to just take a highlighter and find all of those words. Hard and soft C. Excuse me. The language skill is not going to be found here, the grammar skill. You're going to have to go to the drafting lesson because it's taught within context. And then Unit 8 writing is totally different, so I don't even know if we have a drafting lesson. We don't. So it's going to be, let's see. You can also look up your skills online on the website. We sign in. It's going to be under the practice tab. So filter by your grade, your unit, and then scroll down on the left-hand side, you'll see practice. Click on that, and then you'll see grammar, spelling, and vocabulary, and then the unit. So week 1, reciprocal pronouns, and then parts of speech. That's what it says in the practice book. Week 2, I'm going to just go ahead and do weeks 2 and 3 while I have this pulled up. Week 2 is simple, compound, and complex sentences. Oh, that's the same as what we just did for Unit 7. For 3rd, 4th, and I think even 5th, this skill, simple, compound, and complex, comes up a lot. And I did a really fun, cute, the kids like it, cute thing where I had some extra butcher paper about like this long, this wide, tall, whatever. And I divided it into thirds, and so I had simple, compound, and complex, and we talked about how, or no, we put it simple, complex, compound. We talked about how simple is just one subject, one verb, and then complex is when you've got a fragment, sort of like an introductory phrase, and then a simple combined, so fragment plus simple, and then all the way to compound where you've got simple plus simple. So 2 sentences that can stand alone. And then I just gave the kids Post-it notes and they wrote examples, like different types of sentences, and they went up and they charted it. So really quick and easy, especially when you're getting into words like simple, compound, and complex. Like they'll never remember those words, but they'll remember what it's composed of if they actually write them. I'll take a picture if I remember tomorrow. And then the second skill, linking words to create compound and complex sentences. So that kind of goes hand in hand. Conjunction words and whatnot. Okay, week 3 language, and I'll hold this up in a moment. Past tense verbs, and that's it. Here we go. So I'm going to continue moving down this way for week 1. So the writing for Unit 8, let's talk about that real quickly. is a research project. So now that we've done units 1 through 7, where we've had a different prompt each week and different type of writing each week, we have our long drawn out genre writing now. So unit 8, 9, and 10 are going to be your full-on narrative units, your full-on informational unit, and your full-on opinion unit. It just depends. It varies by grade level. So like what you're doing first. So the idea is that like the kids have had the practice with each genre type and writing to sources over multiple texts and over a long period of time, like units 1 through 7 already. And then now you go into that like process writing with them, genre writing. Do you spend the whole week on a specific language skill? Yes, I do. It makes it easier for small groups, honestly. And in the book, in the TRS, it doesn't have you introducing the language skill normally until your drafting lesson, which is Thursday. And so I think that is important to teach the grammar and the language in context, apply it right into their writing as they're drafting to that prompt for the week. But for my own sanity and the structure of my small groups in the organization, it's easier for me to sort of rearrange the way that I teach all these lessons so that grammar and spelling are taught day 1, and then the kids can visit it in their center that week. So, Unit 8 research project. And by the way, if you have my writing booklets, you'll notice Unit 8 looks different. So it's not going to have your analyze, it will have analyze the prompt for week 1, but then it won't go straight into like finding text evidence and then drafting and then that lesson 15 where you're revising and editing. You're going to be finding different aspects of research since it's a research unit. So you're going to be seeing like these pre-search pages where they're using print sources, online sources, and then they're like coming up with it, guiding research questions, so like an inquiry, and then they're basically finding possible sources in order to answer these inquiry questions. So they're not really even going that deep into their research in week 1. They're certainly not writing yet. So this will be challenging. Let's see, this is going to be lesson 3. Let's see what the prompt is for 3rd grade. It's going to be a narrative for 3rd, I believe. Looks like a narrative. So the model prompt, and there's always 2 prompts. There's going to be the model prompt, teacher prompt, and then the student prompt. So if you're a really good teacher, you can do both. So to work on that, ideation and fluency for the kids, I tend to just use one of the prompts and I walk them through it for time's sake. But that's technically not how it's intended to be. So the model prompt here says, research a severe weather event. Write a first-hand fictional account. So that sounds pretty fun. It's narrative. See something here. Okay. And then so since the writing is going to be carried out all 3 weeks with this narrative genre, you can just disregard those for weeks 2 and weeks 3. Or I'll just draw an arrow. 1 type of writing. Okay, and then the vocabulary focus down here, like I said, there's not always a vocabulary focus, but for Unit 8, Week 1, there is for 3rd grade, it's context clues. Okay, Week 2, word study. The phonics is hard and soft G. And no vocabulary focus. Week 3, diphthongs. I can never spell this, D-I-P-H. Okay, and no vocabulary focus for week 3. So this is our unit overview. And now we've got the weekly breakdown. All right, so week 1, our short read titles, we've got that poem, Fair Weather Clouds. And then Earth's Climate and Weather. If you're 2nd grade, you'll have shared read. Shared read selections that are good for phonics and fluency, decoding, that kind of thing. Your RF standards. Our phonics focus was hard and soft C. And your words can be found right down here. Preset words, a list of words. So, affect, certain, computers.
Here's your flash briefing.
Computer.
TV.
Computer, stop.
TV.
Computer, stop. Let me say the signal word. That's my Alexa. Connecticut. Covered, crucial. Fierce. And recommended. If you're 2nd grade, you'll have 10 words. But we only have 8. And then our language skill was reciprocal pronouns, which is review, right? For Unit 7, we just did reciprocal pronouns. That's one another and each other. And then parts of speech. Parts of speech. So that's probably not the best acronym to use, but oh well. So day 1, you're going to want to introduce your new unit. I tend to do this like in its own day, like the week before, a few days before, because I like to do a big introduction chart. Then you can go ahead and do your short read number 1. You can usually have time for your 1st and your 2nd read. So I use the 3 reads method in my class. First read, I read it aloud to them. It's very hard, but I don't go into like, oh, this word means this, and they're talking about this. I don't do any explaining because I'm going to be getting to that during my lessons during the week. And then immediately after the 2nd read is when the kids go in, read it to themselves, and they annotate, and that's where they're finding unfamiliar words. They're underlining things that they might think are interesting or important, and then writing questions in the margin. So basically just any way that they can interact with that text and connect with that text to get them ready to look at it on a deeper level throughout the week. And then introduce your language and spelling skills. So I always just introduce it with this. I go over what the skill is, we highlight the skill, we find it, and then I talk about what the grammar skill is, and then I just briefly show them what their tasks are for the week. So it's a very quick, like 5-minute thing for me. And then for writing, we analyze the prompt day 1. So that writing is going to be narrative, research. And if you're using my writing booklets, you'll see we analyze the prompt using 3 different colors. If you're doing the lesson in the TRS, it's always that analyze the prompt lesson is always way more detailed. You're pulling out more pieces from the prompt. I think the most important 3 pieces are the main topic, the type of writing, and then the sources that the kids need to use. So they'll look at that prompt with their 3 colored pencils. They'll underline what they think the main topic is in red, and they'll write it down. And then the type of writing in the next color, they'll underline words in there. So like a clue word might be story, because it's a narrative. And then finally sources in their next color, I think it's green. They underline any kind of sources that they might be using. But I don't think they're going to be using these sources for that research unit, since the whole idea is that they find their own sources. So I think I took that out on the writing booklets, actually. It's been a while since I looked at it. Hi, Steph. How are you doing? Day 2, we go into that short read again, and you do your 3rd read. So that's where you're analyzing it. You're doing that close read. I like to do that first. It's a poem. It's all different. So the first one would be like respond to a poem. So that would be lesson 2. Normally it's the key details, main idea lesson, and it's lessons 3 and 5. I like to combine it typically instead of breaking it up. Just depends on your class and what kind of time you're working with. So we're going to respond to the poem. Then we'll review the vocabulary from the student annotations and go over them with context clues. So remember, they annotated in their 2nd read. Well, as you're revisiting the text on the next day, go over those words that they circled and just quickly use context clues and each other's knowledge to figure out what those words are. The writing, you're not going to be finding text evidence, so I'm going to just cross that out since this is a research unit. Writing, you're going to be doing lesson 6, which is a pre-search, and it's using print sources to choose research topics. So before you start, go to your school's library and reserve those books that they might need. Day 3, footnotes. So that's going to be quick. It's going to be really quick. Probably put in that metaphors lesson there too. Then you're going to go over your phonics and your language using that word study text. Just down here, you'll see the one that's chock full of all of those like hard and soft C words, and that's going to be called Blizzard Alert. That I don't really teach explicitly. I just say, okay, with a buddy, get your highlighter, find all these words, and then I might have them come up to the board with the dry erase and do like a word sort like that, or not, whatever you have time for. And then you can start short read number 2. So the Earth's weather and climate, and this is longer than the cloud one for sure. And this one has climate zones map. So I like to actually turn that into, I don't know if I'll have time this year, but this one, the 2nd short read, has this map of climate zones. And last year I drew this on a big piece of butcher paper, and I taught the climate zones. And that was really like a heavy science connection for me. So that short read last year was more of a science lesson for me. I didn't necessarily do all these lessons for that. That's up to you. And then for writing, you've got lesson 9, which is going to be pre-search again, and then this time they're using online sources. So this is really intense. If it were me, and if I were looking at this and feeling intimidated, which I kind of am, I might just say, you know what, class, we're only going to use print, or we're going to only use online sources or something. And that might not be the way that it's intended to be, but that's kind of intense like that. So lesson 9 is now using online sources and learning, the keywords, like how to find specific articles. A good site is kittle.co. C-O. It's like Google, but for kids. Okay, moving on to day 4. You're going to revisit that short read, and then this time do your close reading lesson again around it. So key details, the main idea, because it's a nonfiction. That one you're going to probably have to spend a lot of time going over vocabulary too. So That would be lesson 10, context clues. Key details. So look what I'm going to do. Review vocab from student annotations. We're going to do that anyway with lesson 10. So I'm just going to cross that out. And then the next writing lesson is lesson 11, formulate and evaluate guiding research questions. So they have to come up with, like, I think it's at least 3 guiding research questions, like research questions to help guide their research. And then there's like a little checklist to help them evaluate if those questions are like specific enough, not too specific. So that's lesson 11. Then day 5, you'll do your assessment. And I always like to have the kids take a paper pencil and then go and transfer their scores on the computer. Sometimes I'll wait till we go to the computer lab and they'll all do it together at the same time. It's like 2 minutes because they've already done all the work. They just need to like transfer, I said the word again, transfer their scores onto the device. And the thing's always listening. It's crazy. And then the device will grade it for you, and you'll get your standards breakdown. You'll see exactly what the kids need to work on. So I love doing that, and I tell the kids, okay, let's analyze your scores, and so they know what standard they need to work on. Day 5 has that cross-text connection lesson, which is lesson 14. So you're going to be taking your 2 short reads, comparing them. So compare and contrast a poem and a descriptive text. So that's what they're going to be comparing and contrasting, the elements of a poem and the elements of a descriptive text, which wasn't that a lesson for week 3? Week 2. Okay, compare, contrast a poem and descriptive text. And then the writing lesson, that last one, lesson 15, is not going to be revise and edit. It's going to be categorize information and identify possible sources. And voila. Week 1 is done. Kidrex search engine is good too. I haven't tried that. I use Kiddle and Kidrex, but yes, research is intense for me too. Okay, week 2. I did it in purple. Let's keep it purple. We've got an extended read, and it's Water Sky. Hard and soft C for phonics. No, G. And we've got our list here at the bottom of our TRS page. Again, garden, generous, grass, grateful, germinated, gathered, germinated is listed twice, typo, benchmark, and good. Okay. And the language focus was simple, compound, complex, and linking words to go with it. I'm just going to write simple, compound, complex. So day 1, when you have that extended read, it's long. I usually just have time for that first read. They don't really do that second read right after where they annotate. And then so after I'm done reading it to them and not going into any detail, I'll introduce that spelling and grammar, get them all set up for their centers for the week, and then go over the writing. However, they're not going to be analyzing the prompt because it's continued from week 1. So your writing lesson, and I'm just going to plug these in. Your writing lesson will be take notes from sources, and that's lesson 4. And there you go. Those are your 3 lessons for that day. Day 2, you'll go over your extended read again. The kids will get to read it, annotate, go over any kind of vocabulary. And then immediately after, a close read lesson. So in this case, the key story events and summarizing. So like lessons 3 and 5. And I've been doing the somebody wanted but so strategy for summarizing, and that's been really, really easy for my kids. It's a lot easier that way. So I'll probably do that. And then writing is not going to be finding text evidence. It's going to be lesson 7, which is paraphrase information from sources. So by then they already need to know what their sources are from week 1. Day 1, week 2, they'll already have notes from those sources. So 1 day of note taking, and then by the next day, they are learning to paraphrase from those notes. Day 3, your close read lesson, genre features for realistic fiction. And then you'll go over your phonics, realistic fiction, in context using that word study text, which is How Indian Summer Began. And then your writing right after those 2 lessons, Summer Began, is going to be lesson 10, which is evaluate your research. So there's like a checklist, a student checklist that the kids go through. They have their research next to them and they kind of evaluate how good their research is, and where to go from there. Day 4, our next close reading lesson is going to be analyzing the text features, which is more footnotes. I have on here text-dependent questions. Like there's a list of text-dependent questions, which is, 3.1 or the 0.1 standard, ask and answer questions pertaining to a text. And eventually, I don't do that anymore. I don't teach that anymore on Thursdays. That's just in my Read to Self Center now. So that I have eventually migrate to small groups if possible. And I like to use my the bookmarks, my bookmarks that are on my TPT shop. They fit right into your the kids' text for close reading book. It's 10 questions for the whole unit, so it's the same bookmark for the whole unit. And then when they go to their Read to Self Center, they'll read that week's text, kind of annotate with it on it, and then answer those questions right onto their bookmark.